Welcome back to our mini-series. Join us, your hosts, the chicken
and the egg,
where the eternal question always remains. Which one comes first?
Hey, I'm the egg, and welcome to the third and final part of our mini-series where we focus on the freaky animals residing in Galveston, Texas.
Today I'm going to focus on the brown pelicans that soar the skies all over. Whether you are crossing the causeway or walking along the beach, a pelican is not far.
Don't forget to follow us on social media at Freaky Fauna Files for a visual feast and jaw-dropping fauna that we discussed today, along with handy references to enrich your podcast streaming service. Tune in to your favorite podcast platform or email us at info@freakyfaunafiles.com with comments, questions, or concerns.
Perfect. So we can go ahead and dive right on in to the brown pelican.
All right.
So this definitely is one of the creatures that you will see nearly everywhere you go in Galveston. There are two types of pelicans that will actually call Galveston home, and that's the American white pelican and the brown pelican. For this mini episode, I am strictly going to focus on the brown pelican, leaving the American white pelican for maybe another episode, or just didn't make the list. To start, we want to go over taxonomy. So the brown pelican, its scientific name is Pelicanus occidentalis, and it was first described by, this should be a familiar name, Swedish zoologist Carl Linnaeus.
Ah, Linnaeus himself.
Linnaeus is back. And this was first described in 1766.
Okay.
Yep.
Been around.
It's been a while. We've known about the pelican for a while. And there are 5 subspecies of the brown pelican that are actually genetically distinct, despite having super similar phenotypes or like gene expression or appearance. Like they all kind of look the same, but they're different. They're all different. And we found out thanks to genetics. I'm not going to go into the different subspecies in this episode because it is a mini episode, not a long episode. And that would make the episode just a little too long. I do want to point out that the brown pelican is hugely symbolic. A lot of people will think that it is their spirit animal, and it often represents selflessness and sacrifice. So just a little bit of mythology lore in there for you. Just a little.
Do you identify as a brown pelican?
Honestly, I didn't even consider that as a spirit animal.
I would not have, listed that either.
What do you think your spirit animal is?
I don't know. You?
A wolf.
A ghost wolf?
Yes, a ghost wolf.
Okay.
Particularly the ghost wolf.
Go listen to part 2 if you haven't already.
No, it's more like a dire wolf.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's 4.
Yeah, kind of like Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. Anyways, for habitat, you can find the brown pelican just like the blue dragon almost anywhere. You can find it on the Atlantic, the Gulf, and the Pacific coast in the America. They are a strictly marine species, so you won't really find them in freshwater areas, really only along the ocean. But they'll stay in warm estuarine areas, marine pelagic waters, and even mangrove swamps, which makes sense why they like it here in Galveston, because we have all of those.
They're pretty much everywhere.
Yeah. They will not be found in the open sea, though, because they do prefer shallower water, so it's not often that you find them straying more than like 20 miles offshore. So they stay pretty close.
Do they not migrate? I thought that was...
So a lot of birds do migrate, right? That's like kind of the whole thing. But brown pelicans, they are actually considered a resident population, aka non-migratory. But they are dispersive. So what dispersive means is that they will go from their birth site to a breeding site to another breeding site, and so on and so on. Just kind of going through. So they're moving around, but they basically stay in the same spot.
But they're not like migrating to south.
No, they're not. They're not going to crazy areas. Yeah. So it's like each of the subspecies will kind of
colonize.
Yeah, stay in their regions essentially. So I thought that was pretty cool because for some reason, also thought that they migrated.
I mean, I would have figured,
most birds. But yeah, it looks like they just like to chill here.
Nice.
They will often be found roosting or sleeping on like rocks, the water, rocky cliffs, piers. You see them a lot on the piers down here. They'll just kind of be like sitting on the posts.
Pooping. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, they're poop. Ton of bird poop. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, they can also be found on sand beaches, mud flats, all of that good stuff. So really, if you are coming to Galveston, you are going to see a brown pelican. But I can almost 100% guarantee that.
Have you seen the pelicans that have nested in one of the like electric power line towers off the 146 bridge in Kemah?
Oh, no.
We keep up with it because they're so big and they're so close to the freeway.
Yeah.
I think the local, like, I don't remember who it was, but it was somebody in Kemah. They posted about it and they're like, I built a nest, laid eggs. So it's quite a...
It's just chilling there. They don't care. They don't care.
A celebrity, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're really not shy either. Like, they will be right there. To talk about the biology a little bit, they are actually coming in as really the smallest of the extant, which means living, pelican species. But even though it's the smallest, it's still a massive bird. Like, when you look at it, you don't think that it's the smallest of the pelicans. When I say they're massive, they're like 3 to 5 feet in length, and that's like 1 to 1.5 meters. And then they have a wingspan of 6 feet to 7.5 feet. Yeah, or 2 to 2.2 meters.
That's a big bird.
Yeah. So even though they're really big, they only weigh really about like 4.5 to 11-ish pounds.
No way.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but think about it. Think about it.
They're
birds. They're birds, so they've got to fly.
Hollow breastplate.
Right? They've got hollow bones, so most birds, in order for them to be able to fly, they have to be super light.
Yeah.
That includes a pelican. I also thought the pelican, for some reason, was going to be like 20 pounds, because it looks like it's 20 pounds, but it's not. It's all the feathers and the plumage and everything.
It's all wing, apparently.
Yeah, it is all wing.
And freaking whatever that throat thing is.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yeah, we'll talk about that. Another thing that I think is interesting with pelicans is that they are actually the first animal on this podcast that we've talked about where the females are slightly smaller than the males.
Really? Mm-hmm. This is the first one?
Yeah, I think all the other ones have been females bigger than the males, because that's common. That's common in the natural world. But for the pelicans, that is not the case. And it's like slightly smaller. They're pretty comparable. They're like same height.
It's like doesn't even count.
I believe one of the most notable feature of the brown pelican, and it's how anybody knows that a pelican is going to be its bill, right? Mm-hmm. The bill is what ultimately made me decide what to put them on the Freaky Fauna list. Their bill is super long for a bird. It's like 11 to 13.7 inches. So about a foot long.
I don't like that.
I don't like that at all, especially for like how big it is. Like they're only 3 to 5 foot in length and their bill is a foot.
No.
Yeah. And for my non-American peeps, that's going to be 280 to 348 millimeters. So still pretty freaking long.
Yep.
That's insane. They have been recorded to have lived over 31 years in captivity.
Wow.
Yeah, birds live for a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
We talked about that a little bit. Yeah, a little bit with the harpy, right? Mm-hmm. So 31 years in captivity and up to 43 years in the wild. So longer in the wild.
Mm-hmm. You meet a 43-year-old pelican, I wouldn't even know what to do.
Yeah, well, they have it on record,
That's
too.
like twice my age.
Yeah, I don't even know. That's my elder. Like, do I have to have respect for it? Like, what? So, pelicans can live for quite a long time. Don't recommend them as pets. I don't even think you can have them as a pet. It's actually the Louisiana state bird, too.
It?
Yeah.
What are we?
What's
mocking?
up?
What are we? Texas?
I think Texas. I think we're the mocking.
I am a citizen of Texas. I know my.
We got the blue on it. We got the armadillo.
Yeah.
The Dio.
Armadillo.
All right, so I want to talk about a little bit about their coloration. So their coloration will change depending on the bird and kind of at what point in its life it's at, which you'll see that a lot too. So for breeding adults, they will have a white head with a kind of yellowish hue on the crown, which is just like the top. Their nape and their neck are going to be a dark maroonish brown. And all of their other feathers are going to be like silvery gray, brownish, blackish, really just a mosh of darker colors all over the feathers. The rump is like gray, but really if you look at it, if it's not white, you know that it's a brown pelican.
Got it.
Well, I say that, but my next thing is that non-breeding adults simply have
Here's your exception.
white head and neck. And the pink skin around the eyes will actually become dull and gray. So there's breeding adults that have all these extreme colors, all these nice dark colors, and then non-breeding adults are just kind of boring. Just kind of boring colors, which makes sense. So you've got breeding, you've got non-breeding, and then we also have pre-breeding.
Oh my God.
I know. So pre-breeding adults will boast kind of a creamy yellow head. And then we've got juveniles. And juveniles will look pretty similar to the adults, but they're more grayish brown overall with paler underparts. Really, I think the juveniles are what looks like a brown pelican. The other ones are like, could just be a black or dark pelican, you know? But if you look at a juvenile, you're like, that's a brown pelican.
So if I'm a pelican, I really have my age and relationship status just displayed on my head at all times?
Yeah, it's like going to one of those group company events where you have to like wear a bracelet or
the
something.
Different cup
like,
you're holding.
Like, I am comfortable being within 6 feet of you. You know, I am comfortable with a hug. I am comfortable with a handshake. Another thing that just made us weird.
It was
Thanks, COVID.
a bad time.
Thanks, COVID.
Right?
Thanks, COVID. So yeah, their coloration is pretty wild. For the overall,
That's cool though.
description, I would say, look for the bill, look for dark colors, and like that white head is pretty noticeable. Mm-hmm. So, but it's primarily dark. Okay. For behavior, they're actually very gregarious or very social birds. So they will live in flocks of both sexes, so male and female, all year round.
You mean they live in separate flocks or like mixed flocks? What are you saying? Male and female?
Like, it's not going to be like a male-only flock or female-only. Like, if you see a flock, it is likely a blend of both male and females in there. They'll fly in straight lines, or they can sometimes be found doing that, like, typical V formation that you'll see birds do.
Love that.
But, like, when you're driving along the causeway, you'll really just see them just straight vibing. They're vibing on the air currents.
When I see them flying around the island, I only see them in, like, groups of 2 or 3, but when they get up and leave, and then the whole flock, you'll see really big V's.
Everybody's going.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're cool. Like, you just don't realize how big they are until you get close to them. Like, you just see something massive flying in the distance, but the fact that you can see that...
Still at it,
Yes, at that distance, like, with our puny human eyes. It's impressive. It's impressive. For predators, they don't have many predators. Sometimes an eagle can get them, but a lot of the times it's really... They're dying of natural causes. There are some cases of, like, maybe sharks
I was about to say,
them.
so it's not like a horror movie where the pelican's just floating and all of a sudden the jump scare, the shark just goes...
Yeah, I mean, that happens, but it's probably not happening as much as you would think.
Rarer.
Yeah. Because, again, like, there are not many known cases of predation against brown pelicans.
Yeah.
So they're really just flying,
Vibing.
having a good time.
Vibing.
Yeah, being pelicans. For feeding, and I think this is probably the coolest part about the brown pelicans, other than the bill. The bill is definitely cool. But brown pelicans, they're piscivores, meaning they eat primarily fish, which makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. They're a marine kind of bird. They're a seabird. Anchovies and menhaddons account for the majority of their diets, but they'll really eat whatever they can find, like pigfish, herring, sheep's head, mullets, whatever they can find, they're going to get. And the way that they get it is they'll fly really freaking high, like 60 to 70 feet up in the air, or like 18 to 21 meters. And they'll fly above the ocean trying to spot different schools of fish. Once they find their prey, they will then do the deep dive from that height. Yep. And they will dive bomb into the water bill first, kind of like the kingfishers. If you're familiar with that bird. Those are also very cool birds. So they'll dive bill first into the water, submerging itself completely to capture its prey. So when it does this, that throat pouch, the part that you guys actually will like see expand, that throat pouch will fill with nearly 2.6 gallons of water.
Yeah, how could it not? I mean,
Yeah.
you really are just going mouth first into the ocean.
Right? And it has to have cushioning in its head and other places in order to prevent that impact from just like knocking them unconscious. So it's actually quite a marvel that they're able to do this. Once they surface, they have to let all of that water drain out. They can't just swallow it all. So that's where you'll see a pelican sitting with its mouth open, having all the salt water like just drain out of their mouth.
Weird.
Like think Nemo, right? There's that scene in Nemo where they're just kind of chilling in there. That's important because they have to let all that water go before they can finally swallow their prey. Mm-hmm. What's
so
funny?
They kind of like vacuum seal the prey in their little throat as all the water gets out, and then they get...
Almost, yeah, essentially. They just kind of like, until all the water goes, and they're like, good, and then they swallow. What's funny about them when they do this is that there are other birds, okay? There are other birds like gulls, skuas, and frigate birds that will actually swoop in while the pelican is draining the water out of their mouth, take the prey from them, and then just like fly off.
That's evil.
I know, and it doesn't bother those birds because they actually have mechanisms in there that allows them to process the salt water. So they straight up can just like dive in, gulp it up, and then swim off. And the pelican is like, the heck? It's like all my hard effort is now gone. And I still have to sit and wait for the water to drain out. So I think that's pretty crazy. It's a interesting type of kleptoparasitism. And I think we've talked about that with, maybe orcas? We talked about the kleptoparasitism with something. Oh, I think it was the leopard seals.
And
one of them. The kleptoparasitism is just where other animals will swoop in and take another animal's kill.
Mm-hmm. No, but I mean, do you remember what the leopard seal's relationship was with?
Oh, like what critter? I just think others.
Yeah, okay. In general, they just swoop in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in general, you can find that. So, this type of method of attack is what really makes the brown pelican stand out, and it's what makes it special. The only other pelican species that does it is going to be the Peruvian pelican. All of the other ones will just simply like float on the water and kind of stick their heads down to get their prey. Like it's like a lazy technique. But no, it's the Peruvian and the brown pelican, and they're the only ones that will use this dive technique, which I just think is incredible.
Cool.
Super cool. Moving forward towards kind of breeding and mating, the brown pelican is monogamous within a breeding season. So this does not mean that they mate for life. I almost had an aw, cute moment. But nope, it's literally just like when it's time to get busy, they get busy with just one.
Yeah.
So they will have the males. The males will choose the nesting site, defend it for up to 3 weeks during March and April, and then they will perform a series of head movements to attract a potential mate.
Ooh.
So just like imagine like, and that's what he's doing. That is what he's doing. So once the suitor is finally swayed, both sexes will actually perform a courtship display. And this courtship display involves head swaying, bowing, turning, and potentially a low raw call.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. It just kind of gets you going.
It's got to.
It's got to, right? So they will then nest in colonies, often clumped together, with as little as about a meter from each other, or about 3 feet. So just like imagine, you're like bumping elbows with your freaking neighbors. Could not be me. I need personal space. For the nest, the females will be the primary builders, and they utilize basically whatever they can find to build her nest. And the nest is built around like 3 to 10 feet off of the ground, which is about 1 to 3 meters. These nests will measure up to 30 inches across and 9 inches high on the outside. So this is a thick thing. And then it has a feather-lined interior. Yep, just like the harpy.
Whose feathers?
Whose feathers? Oh, yeah, no, the harpies were sloths.
Yeah, somebody else's. What is it, the brown pelican's feathers?
Yeah, who knows? Just random feathers. But they'll have the feather-lined interior space, and it's up to 12 inches across and 4 inches deep. So it's a sizable nest.
Yeah.
It's a sizable nest. So I can imagine seeing that one in Kima. Like,
Oh,
just
yeah.
up
Oh,
on the post. Like, you're going to see it. It's not like a baby nest.
No,
It is a
huge.
massive nest for a massive bird. Whenever the nest is all good and the female is ready, a clutch of about 2 to 4 chalky white oval eggs will be laid, and only one brood ends up being raised each year.
Oh, why?
It's the same thing. It's allocating resources, and it's going to be the exact same as that harpy eagle that we talked about in the Amazon episode, where the parental care is so high, and that's kind of the trade-off.
Yeah. You can only afford one kiddo.
Yep, exactly. So with the eggs, it takes about 28 to 30 days for incubation, and both sexes will share the responsibility of keeping the eggs warm by holding them on or under their webbed feet. Okay, so it's kind of nice that both mom
Happy
and
feet
dad,
style?
that both mom and dad have to help. Once the juvenile or the baby reaches of age, which is around like 60 days, the juveniles will then group together in pods, and they will kind of hang out until they ultimately reach sexual maturity in like 3 to 5 years. So the adults, like the parents, they'll stay with them for like 8 to 10 months.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's pretty significant for the animal world, which, again, makes sense why they only have like a couple. It really ensures that the success of the offspring is going to be high, which is good. The final thing that I'm going to talk about with my brown pelicans is actually going to be a little bit about their conservation. I feel like they have a pretty interesting story when it comes to how their populations have changed over the time, kind of what has caused it. So brown pelicans truly are like a living symbol of how successful wildlife conservation can be, and how good human intervention can really change the course of things for the better. So with the brown pelicans, they essentially disappeared from North America between the late 1950s and the early 1970s.
Oh, no.
I know, sad, big sad. And they have like hundreds of thousands, like a ton, because they're birds, right? So the main reason for this wipeout is actually a pesticide called endrin. And once this pesticide entered the food chain, it could essentially just wipe the pelicans out.
Oh.
Like just it could just kill them outright. And not only were the pelicans facing this pesticide, but they were also having to deal with I'm not even going to try to butcher this name. It's DDT, okay? I think it's like dichloro-diphenyl trichloroethane.
That sounded correct to me.
It was pretty close. Yeah, it was pretty close. So DDT, that's what I'm going to say. So DDT contamination led to their eggs becoming super thin. Like really, really thin.
That sucks.
And anytime the parents would try to incubate it, or it just made them really fragile. And so the eggs would break and the babies would die, and just all around not a good time for the pelicans.
Well, definitely hard to maintain your population when you can't make any more.
Yeah, 100%. Or when you like go through the energy to make more, but you can't, you don't reap the benefits from that baby, essentially. And I do want to talk a little bit about the DDT, just to give you a little bit of a background with it. But it's a synthetic and persistent organic pollutant, or POP, that can contaminate air, water, land, bodies of humans, animals. It is all over the place. So it's a pretty serious contaminant that we have to take into consideration. It was developed in like the 1940s as an insecticide to fight disease and protect crops, and was used extensively during World War II.
Oh, that makes sense.
So I wanted to put that in here because it really puts in perspective how long it's been around.
Yeah.
Right? And so eventually, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, banned DDT in 1972.
Oh, good.
All right, there we go. Due to its potential human health risks and negative effects on the wildlife. However, you're still going to find it in the environment. It's still here.
Sure.
Right? I mean, it's impossible to get rid of all of the pesticides, all of the contaminants that we have already put into the system. Despite DDT still being there, Eventually, pelican numbers were able to recover, and reach pre-pesticide numbers in 2009.
Oh, wow, nice.
Yeah, so they ended up recovering quite well. That's why we can see them all over the place here.
When did the EPA ban it?
1972.
So it took 40 years?
It takes time.
Oh, yeah.
It takes time for the earth or for, Mother Nature to recover, but always
good that they did.
Mm-hmm.
That seems pretty fast to get all the way back to where you were.
Yeah, especially in the hundreds of thousands. That's a lot.
That's a lot of birds.
Yeah, it is. The main thing now that the brown pelicans have to worry about are oil spills, which is not fantastic because those do happen. And honestly, humans in general. There was a case in California, and there were a few other cases where people just kind of go around and like clip their wings or break their wings or kind of like stomp them.
Oh my god, that's awful.
Yeah, animal abuse towards brown pelicans is definitely not unheard of and has been going on for a really long time.
Ooh.
Yeah. Who just decides to go and mess with the big bird like that? Like, I don't
know. That's
I don't
awful.
know. I don't know. Can't question it too much, I guess. So, the brown pelicans definitely need us to
enforce protection.
Protect them. Yeah, make sure that we're not hindering them any more than what they already have to deal with in the natural environment. It's important that we really always respect the other creatures that call Earth home. We want to observe, we want to look at them, we want to admire them. Again, always from afar. Please do not forget the danger zone and how many creatures can actually reside in there. So that's really all I want to say about the brown pelican. We got to keep this mini episode short, so I'm going to cut it right there. And as we kind of wrap it up, we do want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all of you guys listening from all over the world. We really appreciate you guys coming in and joining us on this freaky journey as we, see what's out there.
Remember, the adventure doesn't have to end here. Stay tuned for the next episode where we get down and dirty about some of the freaky sex our freaky fauna are having, where we uncover even more peculiar reproductive and mating strategies.
Don't forget, you can always follow us on social media at Freaky Fauna Files for updates, behind-the-scene contents, and more. And please, please, please send us emails, comments, messages of any questions you guys may have, or if you guys have an animal that you want us to cover, anything like that, just send it our way. I promise we won't bite.
If you ever have a photo of any of the freaky fauna we're discussing, we would love to hear your stories and send in your photos.
Yeah, definitely. Until next time, I want you guys to keep your eyes peeled for the unexpected, and may your curiosity continue to lead you on extraordinary journeys. Thanks for listening, and stay freaky.